Hello, Hornets. How are we? We're back for the 25-26 season. The curtain has barely closed on the last one. We had the playoff final at the weekend, which Sam was actually at, but we're going to be looking ahead to an interesting season following Watford. It is never dull. It is never boring. It's always relatively interesting, even though we sometimes don't agree with everything that goes on at Watford. There's always something to talk about, and we're going to be doing that looking ahead to next season. My name's Jacob Coleshaw. I'm joined by Sam Yuko, as I mentioned, and Charlie Zazera to discuss it all. Just to give you a little bit of a heads up for what's to come, we're going to be talking about the new Watford head coach, Paolo Pezzolano. We're going to be talking about transfer news. We're going to be looking ahead to next season, the supporters board, the Pozzos who are set to sell Udinese. We could even have a former Watford midfielder joining as our new sporting director. So a lot to come on the way. Thanks so much for sticking with us over the past 3 weeks. I know we had a little bit of a break. It was a joint decision that we all wanted a little bit of a break from Watford because it had been pretty intense. We had the Mental Health World Cup, which was a massive success. And thank you to everyone who's watching this, who came down, donated, got involved. It was an amazing day. One that when I look back on the pictures, it's really, I don't get emotional that much, but I think when I look back on the channel, where we started to now is by far the proudest moment we ever had doing this. And this is why we do it. So a really big thank you to everyone who got involved. And we're back again to talk about the Hornets. Sam, you've been all over the place. Some people are going to rename you Mr. EFL because you were every single playoff final. What was the best one of the lot?
I can tell you definitely the worst one was League Two, comfortably, which was an absolutely terrible game of football all round. I'd say I enjoyed Charlton Leyton Orient the most. I thought that was a really enjoyable game of football. But I would say that Sunderland game with the last kick of the game, obviously having been to so many games of football in the past, I don't think I've ever heard a noise at a football stadium like that before when that last minute goal went in, which was unbelievable. So huge congratulations to Sunderland. Huge congratulations to Luke O'Nien as well, ex-Watford player in there as well. And yeah, I'm not going to miss that trip up north. So best of luck in the Premier League.
Really, really happy for Luke as well. I know he obviously came off with that injury as well. And what a story, by the way, going all the way from Watford, where he obviously made only one appearance, Wealdstone, Wickham to Sunderland and League One, and taking them up to the Premier League. An amazing story. Charlie, how did you feel the last 3 weeks about Watford? Because the last video we did, and it's the elephant in the room, was about Tom Cleverley. And there were some harsh words said from all of us about the situation. So you've had 3 weeks to settle on it. There's been a lot going on. Do you feel like you're back to yourself?
I wouldn't say back to my as invested, passionate, excited, hopeful self. I still think that was a huge decision, which was wrong. And yeah, they've moved quickly with new head coach, some signings, which we'll talk about today. And Watford are always going to be my club, our club. So we're always going to talk about it. And one of the main reasons we wanted to jump on this video because I just wanted to catch up with you two guys. It's been a while. So normally I'm a bit of a geek and do like a full dive into new manager philosophies and players and stuff like that. I haven't looked at it at all, if I'm honest. So apologies if the insight isn't great. I spent an hour before this having a look at the new manager, a couple of the rumours signing and stuff. So hopefully I can bring a tiny bit. But yeah, we'll see what happens. But just looking forward to spending the hour with you guys.
I think Charlie hit the nail on the head there in terms of our insight on Paolo Pezzolano, which is nothing against him. Obviously, he's coming into this in a fresh situation. I'm sure he'll be wanting to do really, really well. But obviously, with what happened with Tom, we took a little bit of a break from Watford, and we all agreed as well that we thought it'd be good to get an expert and someone who's watched a lot of Pezzolano's football to talk about him and give a more in-depth tactical breakdown of the style we can expect at Watford. Also with the players that we have. And I mean, it looks like there's going to be more activity in the coming weeks with the squads, but we will get someone on to talk about Pezzolano, his philosophies, his tactics, and a real in-depth breakdown for all of you guys. But we'll try our best from what we've read. The amazing coverage from Andrew French as well, who is, I mean, I tell you what an incredible effort from him. Like the amount of news and articles that have come out recently, keeping us all informed, and obviously his time at the Watford Observer is coming to an end. So we'll discuss all of Andrew's pieces as well. As always, let us know your thoughts and feelings in the comment section below. Leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Plenty more stuff on the way. And actually, I wanted to bring up a comment from Jack, one of our long-time subscribers, top man. I saw that on Twitter. You have more followers than the capacity of the Vic. And I know that was a target for you, Jacob. Congrats. It was, Jack. It was one of the first things I ever said, I think. I think subscribers, and then I realised that maybe it might be a little bit harder than on Twitter. So, yeah, it was a really, really nice milestone to hit. Before we just move on to the football, Sam, Men's Health World Cup, final words from both you lads on that one. I know I mentioned that it was a really emotional day, an amazing day. You know, you had people coming up to myself and you guys saying it was one of the best days of their life getting to play on the Vic, playing at the Vic, playing on the carpet. And I think when we started this, Sam, and getting involved with the event with Giancarlo and the trust, we were so keen to raise so much money for charity. But I think in that, for me anyway, I almost lost the impact of fans getting the opportunity to play at the Vic. So for you, how do you look back on that day?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm not sure what you two think, but it was actually pretty difficult on the day to take everything in just because of how busy everything was and sort of getting everything ready to be as good as it could be. And I think it's only really been, the last few days, 3 or 4 weeks on now, that it's really sunk in what we managed to do. And I say what we managed to do, us three, but I think it's the entirety of the Watford community, everyone who came down on the day, not just the people we played, but we had loads of volunteers, the staff at the trust, and people who worked on the kiosks. Giancarlo, I can name so many people who were unbelievable on the day, and we raised an unbelievable amount for charity. So a huge thank you to everyone who came down and watched this space.
Charlie, any final thoughts?
I want to know what happened in the after party. I bowed out early, so maybe that's like an unfiltered episode. But I don't know if you guys can tease anything on that.
Sam, it was
Pop World Eye.
I mean, I do remember the night, but we didn't go to Pop World, did we?
No, my night started going straight from the Vic to the Red Lion, where we had a drink with who was in there, Maps, Gosling, Doyley, like the entire academy coaching staff are in there. So we had a drink with them. And I think we headed to O'Neill's, and then we went to Dunning's, I think. So a heavy night, and I mean, you can hear I've got a cold, and maybe I'm still paying the price for it 3 weeks down the line, to be honest.
2 things to add to Sam's point there. Charlie will never admit it, but he did get a round in for Matty Bevs, Lloyd Doyley, Dan Gosling, Charlie Daniels, a lot. I mean, Lloyd Doyley, the legends, and shout out to those guys who won it on the day, the Men's World Cup, the WD18 Cup as well. And the second thing to say, has anybody else had a Guinness at Dunning's Bar? It's absolutely sensational. I'd go as far to say best Guinness in Watford. And I know that's a big statement, but I think if you haven't been, and obviously 18 plus, please drink responsibly, head down to the Mad Squirrel before you even think about Dunning's Bar. But I would say it's the best Guinness I've had, Sam, in the Watford area.
Yeah, I'm not a Guinness man, to be honest with you, Jacob. But one thing that I have heard, here's a fun fact about Guinness for today. Apparently it's nicer in sort of the Irish bars because it's flowing a lot more, so it's not stuck in the pipes. And in places where sort of not the traditional Irish bars, the Guinness gets stuck in the pipes for a bit longer, which is why the taste changes. So for more facts and more trivia, make sure to like and subscribe to WD18.
I'm surprised if you aren't just dwindling after that amazing bit of intel there.
I've actually got a question for both of you before we get into the football stuff. So over the last couple of weeks, without Watford in my life, I've decided to take up paddle. Have you both played paddle yet? Paddle. Either of them. Have you played yet, either of you?
I've played. I've dabbled, Sam.
Mate, this sport is revolutionary. If Watford start next season badly, I think I'm retiring football and just going full-time paddle, because I don't know what it is. I've played a couple of times now, and wow, I'm hooked. I'm addicted. Go get playing paddle. What a game. Cures you in life.
Just lastly, because I'm sure the people are absolutely dying for us to get on some Watford chat. It is incredibly expensive, though.
It is a bit, yeah.
Like, obviously, if you split it between the four, because it's doubles, isn't it, paddle? But
yeah,
I mean, if you can't go, it's not like tennis where you can go 1 for 1. But yeah. I don't know, mate. Like, I couldn't play that every week.
I don't know, 14, 15 quid, I think it is for a go. So, yeah. Listen, if anyone wants to partner with us as WD18 paddle partners next season, do let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, we'll get on to Watford because we've been chatting for about 10 minutes about Guinness, paddle, the lot. Dunning's Bar, a great shout. And also Sean to just shout out the Market Tavern as well as a decent option as well for a cheeky Guinea. But anyway, we move on. Let's talk about the man who's come into the Watford dugout. I'm not talking about Hector Cipriano, who was obviously seen there before he signed, but we have got the new man, which is Paolo Pezzolano. Can you guys see that on screen? Mm-hmm. Let me just zoom in a little bit more so you guys can read it. So Watford announced on the 13th of May, which was just over 2 weeks ago, that they're through to announce Paolo Pezzolano as their new head coach. The Uruguayan 42 has carved out a reputation as a promotion specialist, which is key to remember, having reached the top divisions in Spain, Brazil and Uruguay, and has a rich pedigree of working with young players and establishing a clear playing identity. Gianluca Nani went on to say that Paolo has a hugely impressive track record working with young players, which is essential when you look at the age profile of our squad, which is something that Tom cleverly mentioned a lot last season about the average age of Watford, especially when you take out someone like Sissoko. I think it was like average age of 23. Nani went on to say he has a success at virtually every club, including league titles and promotion, but it is his work on the training ground that impressed the most when we undertook our research. And that actually went on to say in Andrew French's article about how Watford had watched training sessions of Pezzolano before they appointed him, if I remember correctly. He went on to say he has innovative ideas and processes which he transmits passionately to the players. We believe Paolo is the leader we need as we refocus ahead of the new season. He's fully aware of our ambitions, Sam, and determination to push for promotion and embrace that challenge. The club achieved great success when making similar appointments in Slavica Kanovic, Javi Gracia, and Cisco Munoz, and we hope our fans welcome Paolo and wish him every success as we try to achieve the owner's clear aim of challenging for a return to the Premier League. Sam, before we even touch on Pezzolano, those words from Nani about promotion and being in the promotion picture next season, what was your reaction when you heard that from him?
Look, I don't want to write us off, but I mean, firstly, when I read that just over 2 weeks ago, I'm still very much hurt by I still am hurt by the Tom Cleverley news. I know I tweeted this at the time, but I just feel like, how dare you stand where he stood? That scene in Harry Potter. It's difficult to get over still, to be honest with you. I'm really, really trying to look forward to next season, get excited by it, but to be honest with you, whenever I think about Watford, and this isn't against Pezzolano at all, and I hope he does well and wish him all the best, I'm still just incredibly annoyed about last season. And maybe that's not the healthiest outlook, not just in football, but in life as well. But yeah, I'm just still incredibly frustrated. And any talk of promotion is going to need to be backed up by actions in the transfer window, because otherwise, yet again, it will just be empty words.
Charlie, after hearing those words, reading up a little bit on Pezzolano like you did beforehand, do you now understand why they made that decision?
No, if truth be told, but maybe I'm looking at it with my Clev's tinted glasses on. One thing that I noticed when I looked at kind of the clips and Pezzolano's teams, especially at Valladolid in La Liga last season, where they got promoted, the season before, obviously, the playing style is pretty similar to what Clevs was doing. Kind of centre-back splitting, having that one pivot dropping deep, Imran Louza, having two wide people trying to kind of pin people back. I think of what I've read, he likes kind of positional play and a lot of kind of bait in the press, and very kind of positional, tactical. But I just think it's going to be his biggest job for me is just getting buy-in from the players. I think he's got such a big task to walk in on the first day of training. He's going to be speaking to all those lads who had such a connection with Clevs. And that first speech and that first session has got to be spot on, and he's got to get buy-in. And to be honest, when I read up on him before we jumped into school, I was intrigued. I don't think it's something that Watford have really played before. Very kind of possession-based, building up through the thirds, verticals, like build up similar to kind of De Zerbi, which is like I said about that baiting, being quick. But do you know what I mean? With Watford, does he have the players to do that? He likes playing a 4-3-3. Again, what Clevs was trying to do towards the end of the season. I think what we've seen in recent news, and we'll get on to kind of Pozzo's outlook and Udinese, but if we keep all the players, then I think he's got a lot better chance. And if we sell the players that we think we are, but they said we want an experienced coach. He's only 42. I just can't see of what I'm hearing, kind of the news of we want to keep hold of the players and we're going to have a more of a look at focusing on Watford getting promoted. Why couldn't have we done that with Clevs? But
So
it is what it is.
just to jump in there, Charlie, is the experience, not his age, actually the fact that if you look at his managerial pathway, where he's been, he has gained promotion, i.e., the club mentioned it that Uruguay's Talk City won promotion and clinched the title. Later at Liverpool FC in Uruguay, he reshaped the club's identity and led them to their first major trophy. He went to Mexico, Pachuca, didn't gain promotion, but then at Cruzeiro under Ronaldo, the Brazilian Ronaldo R9, he secured promotion to Serie A, and then he took Real Valladolid up to from Segunda to La Liga. So when you talk about the experience, is it less so about the age, more the fact he has a track record, clearly, although not in England, of getting teams up?
Yes, but we could say we got in Claudio Ranieri and he's won the Premier League. So I get that he's got teams promoted from second tiers, and he, like I said, he has got kind of an impressive CV, but I think it's just so hard to parachute a coach into Watford and expect exactly the same. I think the one thing that kind of stood out for me that might give him more of a chance is his last job in Valladolid is kind of working him against a really difficult backdrop. His ownership with Fat Ronaldo seemed pretty chaotic there, and he did do well to get them up, and he did impress kind of bits in the Liga. But yeah, I think I'm gonna have to see like a great game of football, a really impressive performance, and him running down the touchline, giving it fist bumps to get hooked back in, which could happen. But I think he's got a tough job, and the promotion talk is interesting. What do you make of the promotion and playoff chat, Jacob?
So I think I still disagree with the decision to get rid of Cleverley, because I think he knew it and we knew it, that he was building something. If I put myself into Gino's shoes, and when you hear the stuff about Udinese coming in about looking at £150 million sale reportedly, and it's going to be a full sale of the football club, even though initially people were saying it's just going to be transfers, I'm thinking it from his point of view. He has made it pretty clear now. Nani said it, he said it. They want promotion next season. And we are now actually all on the same page here as Watford fans, where we know that is the aim. It felt like last season that had been talked about a little bit. We flirted with the playoffs. Ultimately, we knew the squad wasn't good enough to do it. I think the question he's asked himself, Pozzo, which clearly was not his appointment, it was Duxbury's. I think we can read between the lines. That was not Pozzo's appointment. He appointed him at the back end of the 22-23 season to fill a gap. He then realised 23-24. Then he realised, okay, look, let's see how it goes for the first part of the season. We can always get rid of him. They almost tried to in January. Then we had the really poor second half of the season, which we can't ignore, from Cleverley. So I think Pozzo's looking at it now going, if I want to achieve promotion, do I stick with Cleverley or do I gamble? Now, I think Pezzolano is his appointment completely. I think he's looked at it, and I think there's a part of Pozzo that will probably think, I'm going to show a lot of you that I was right making this decision. And I don't think it's any surprise that actually we're seeing transfer business already when these are signings that really we all wanted to happen under Tom Cleverley in reality. So I think it's pretty punchy to say that. I think it's clearly a Pozzo appointment. I can't really comment on whether I think it's a good appointment or not yet until I see, as you say, Charlie, see games and see us in pre-season and start to get an idea of what he wants the team to look like. But I think it's probably a frustration for me that we could have really built this season. But I think Pozzo's not really bothered about that. I think he's just bothered about the fact that this guy is signed on a 1-year deal with an option of a further year. It's pretty obvious for everyone to see that he wants promotion this season and he's not going to accept anything less. Now, look, if we go through a bit of a bad form, you know what's going to happen. We all know it. We're almost on the same page. Whereas I think in the second half of the season, there was a little bit of scepticism about what we're actually trying to do under Cleverley. I think a lot of Watford fans wanted to build with him. Pozzo clearly doesn't think he's the right man to get us out get us to the Premiership. So, Sam, when you I'll ask a similar question to what I said to Charlie. Do you now see why he's done it, or are you still really sceptical about this one?
Well, I think you're right there, Jacob, that you just infer to it. That I think what some fans, I can't speak for all fans, but some fans were willing to be patient with Tom Cleverley and just have a few years of building and really build on what I thought was a solid foundation last season, despite a poor second half of the season, even though I did think overall our identity and our performances were better in the second half of the season. But Pozzo doesn't want that patience, like you're saying, and he just wants almost instant promotion at the moment, which, you know, some fans understandably will want that. I think we all want Watford to be as successful as possible, but there's different ways of going about that, to be fair. The thing that frustrates me, and the Watford Buzz podcast, in particular, I think Jordan spoke about this on there, so make sure to check them out. It just feels like we've wasted an entire year of, you know, if we sacked Tom Cleverley because he's not experienced enough, which is what the club statement's partly inferred, then why did we even go with him in the first place? And it's almost bringing the fans in to have that connection with Clevs just to be let go. I know we've spoken about this loads, but yeah, going back to it, to be honest with you, I don't really know anything about Pezzolano, and am I going to go too much out my way to try and find out more? Probably not, because it's difficult to get invested in a new manager, I think, when, like you say again, Jacob, if we start the first 5-10 games next season badly, we know what's going to happen. So I'm going to wait and see and hopefully be pleasantly surprised. But yeah, with these owners in charge, I wouldn't hold my breath.
Let's have a little look at the comments on Pezzolano. Jack says, I don't think Paolo's been in a job longer than 18 months and is used to toxic environments. He suits the job perfectly. Interesting about the 18 months, by the way. Clearly, this is a one season, get us up like Jokanovic and then move on for his track records. I think we've seen it from Pozzo before. But then, you know, there's a great point from Brad. Unless some of that sale money from Udinese is getting invested in Watford, you can forget about promotion talk. There was also another comment from Robbie Miles saying hardest championship for decades. If you look at the teams in there, so extremely ambitious, thinking promotion is on the cards. But then, you know,
I agree with that. Sorry, Jacob. I saw the list of teams in the championship next season, and it is, I'd argue, one of the hardest championships to call in a long, long time. Genuinely, I can't call who's going to be up there come the end of next season, and I don't think we're in the best position to sort of put our claim forward in there. So it's going to be interesting. But I think, Robbie, yeah, you're spot on. It's going to be difficult.
I totally echo this, by the way, Charlie. From Freddie, we're either getting promoted to the Premier League or to League or relegated to League or no in between. And when you look at the early predictions from people already, 29th of May, people have already put in their early bets for, you know, promotion and relegation. And it's really interesting. If you look at the comments, it's very split with Watford, where some people are like they might sneak a playoff, and other people are saying they're going down. And I don't know about you, but I'm kind of finding myself in a similar predicament where I don't know. Honestly, it's probably the hardest season to predict, actually, I think, as a Watford fan. There's been others where, like last season, Charlie, you got it bang on. But I'm finding it really difficult early on because we don't know the squad, we don't know the manager really, but it just feels like it could go either way.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking now, I don't want to swear, but let's just go with it and embrace the chaos. It could be 6-7 managers during the season. We could be splashing loads of cash. Who knows? But I think it's interesting what you're saying, Jacob, about having that clarity about Pozzo wants. And is it good that we have that clarity now? Yes, in a degree. But does that make me more confident that we're going to get promoted? No. But let's see. Apparently, he's focusing all of his energies on Watford now. He's going to stop travelling back and forth from Italy. We'll know by the first game of the season from the transfer if he's serious about it or if he's still got a bit of that delusion of grandeur to thinking that we can get up with the squad. Because even with a fully fit squad, lads, are we near a playoff team? I mean, maybe if a Banquer and Wiley come in, but I still think we're miles off it.
I think it's the squad depth, innit? I think when you look at our starting 11, you'd probably go, if you looked at our best 11, everybody fit, and it depends, obviously, if Lou's a Chatford, that's in Barstay, you're looking at, I think, a top 6 starting 11. But the drop-off from our first team to the bench and the rest is for me, is significant. Whereas when I look at the most successful Watford teams in the Championship, whether you had Troy or Vidra, you then had a Forestieri to come in. Or you look at the back and you had Angela and you had Matt Connolly coming in, or, you know, whoever, you get what I mean. There was always a replacement to come in who was at a very similar level, maybe just slightly below, but a very similar level. Whereas I think our starting 11, there is a big difference. I wanted just to take a few comments because it's really interesting just on Pezzolano. I'd like to say it's quite a split. There's one good one here from Ben. All right, lads, I hate to say it that I think it's a pretty good appointment. I think getting the fans on side is a tougher task than the players. Clevs went at least some way to changing the player power. And I actually think if you go further back, Ben, Valerian Ishmael was the man who actually instilled that early on with the culture in the training grounds. And Clevs built on that. So I think we're in a good spot there. But I do agree. I think it'll be the fans, whether you do hear cleverly chants, I don't care about Gino, he doesn't care about me chants at Vicarage Road. Charlie Bush could see it, Charlie. I want to hear this Sam Yuko voice after the promotion party next season.
Struggling here.
Do you know what? There's so much to get into, guys. But Sean says, Sam, would you be happy selling Loser and Georgie if it meant we could get 4 or 5 players into the squad?
It's a difficult question because obviously the question is who. If it's 4 or 5 quality players who would come in and start, I think you'd say absolutely yes. I'm more reluctant on selling Loser than Georgie, to be honest, because I think this Watford team can function more. I wouldn't say better, but can function more without Georgie than they can without Loser. I think Loser's going to be absolutely crucial that we try and keep hold of him. And whether we do is a whole other conversation that I'm sure we'll be having plenty of times throughout the summer. But I think provisionally, yes, I would. If there are 4 or 5 quality players who'd come in and really upgrade the team, I'd probably say yes.
Rio says, all depends if we keep our 3 best players. Loser, Chatford, that's in bar. Hacker says he sounds like a Conte regen. He'll throw everyone under the bus. You've heard some stories. Have you guys read the story about Pezzolano with the Real Valladolid fans sort of on the bus? They were saying sack him, and then they got promoted, and then he started singing it back to the fans. So he's fiery. He's fiery from what I've read anyway.
Definitely Sanino vibes.
Oh, do you remember that Lloyd Dyer scene?
It's like Rotherham away. God.
Wow. Troy said in the podcast that apparently Sanino basically resigns in the dressing room after that game. Yeah. And then he said one more, didn't he? It was at Huddersfield at home, and then he went. But interesting. I wanted, just before we move on, I wanted to just talk on Ben, who's watched it, who's done a bit of research on him. Ben, time to get back behind the club, guys. I think these moves for the new head coach and in the transfer market look promising, and the sale of Udinese will really help on the financial side. Any coach worth his salt will get buy-in. In the words of Roy Keane, that's his job. Ben says several promotions in 4 different leagues versus 1 season as a coach. That's what he's saying to Cleverly. I like what I read about pressing, vertical and efficient passing, contrast to controlled possession of late Clev's era. I think I know where you stand, Ben, on the Cleverly Pezzolano debate, but you team me up nicely just to talk about Gino Pozzo focusing on Watford's as the sale of Udinese progresses. I'll just get the article up here from Andrew French. Make sure you do read the full article from Andrew. I'll just read you the top line. The reported sale of Udinese is progressing, with Gino Pozzo deciding to end his family's 39-year association with the Italian club in order to focus more closely on Watford. Obviously, there were stories released over the weekend about whether it was an 80% sale. But although the exact same price involved, quoted at between 150 million to 180 million pounds, is unclear, the sale is going ahead, according to Andrew. And the Watford Observer understands from trusted contacts in Europe that the Pozzo family will not retain any part of the Italian club. So, Sam, with that news, I'm sure you've read the article from Andrew. Make sure you do go and read it. It looks like the focus is now solely on Watford, Sam. So, why?
Well, I think, to be honest with you, they're looking for a get out of football altogether. And I think the reason behind them putting so much into Watford this season is because I think the plan is, whether it's during this season or the end of next season, I think they do want to sell the club. That's what I think could be the case here. And I think as it stands, they're going to lose money. And I think part of the mindset here is they might as well try and lose a little bit more money if it means gambling into the Premier League and selling us at a good price if we do get there. It's a huge, huge gamble, this. And I think it's just geared towards them getting out of football altogether. Whether it's a good thing that they're fully focused on Watford, I'm not too sure, to be honest with you. But yeah, it's going to be. I mean, has anything come to light yet on what it means for the likes of Gianluca Nani? Will he be joining Watford, Udinese, still continuing the split? Do we know anything yet on that?
Mate, I don't know, Charlie. But I think what is interesting is, we'll get onto the transfers in just a second, but they're trying to make a Banqua permanent before obviously that sale goes through. It would not surprise me if there's a couple more who come over. One that I know Luan's mentioned today was Jordan Zamora, the left back at Udinese, where there's a couple of players they're looking at and thinking we need to get these guys over before the sale goes through. Charlie, on that article from Andrew, I'm sure you read it. I'm sure you've read the rumours about Pozzo. And when you tie it in with what he said in the statement, Gianluca Nani, but the club have said about promotion, do you agree with Sam's theory that it's a one season all in and then move on if they get promoted?
Yeah, it's definitely another gamble. The gambler's back at it. Because the minute you get promoted, you literally hit the jackpot financially. What were they calling it? The £220 million game, the Sunderland one. That kind of shows how much money you can get from it. And look, if they by hook or by crook get us up this season and sail off into the sunset, we'll probably be happy, wouldn't we? We'd have a promotion under our belt. Pasture's new ownership, and but I just can't see it. Like, I just can't see us spending going from being the lowest spenders in the league last season to like I'm getting the vibe that, are we going to spend a bit of money? Are we going to spend like 10, 20 million? I have no idea. I'm not too sure. And I just don't think the ownership kind of have the tools and the kind of intellect and the people around them now to foster an environment to create a winning team. And if he thinks that by just keeping the players like Loser, Chapdazzi and Barr is enough, I personally disagree. But look, I'll welcome if it's running it back to 2012, 2013, and we see 10 players rock up, and like I said, it's just a bit madness, and we could have some fun with it. And the big thing, we can talk about transfers, and I know a report came out today from Andrew French, is we need a goal scorer. There's no way you're getting promoted. How are you going to pluck out? We need to pluck out 20 goals a season, man, and that is going to be the biggest task. So I know they said that's a priority, but that's easier said than done.
Yeah. A couple of interesting lines. Sorry, Sam.
And not even just that, we also need sort of an understudy to that 20-plus goal striker who can come in and probably score 10 to 15 goals as well. Like you mentioned before, that when we got promoted last time out, we had Dini, Vidra, Igalo, Forestieri. I look at all the other clubs who got promoted this season, there were 2 to 3 really good goal scorers in this division. And at the moment, I don't think Watford have that at all. So it's going to need to be a minimum of 2 strikers who can add to the team. Probably about 30 goals between them is going to be crucial for us.
2 words: Mama Dumbia.
Mama Dumbia. Interesting what role he plays. I mean, looking just at the couple of lines, just to add to what you lads have said, it kind of backs up our theory that we've discussed here about taking back Watford to the Premier League would be far more lucrative than steering Udinese back into the top half of Serie A. Looks like it's going to be an American investment company who take over for Udinese. And the understanding is that Pozzo's chief commitment to the club in terms of playing staff is to financially support retaining what Watford already have. The owner wants to keep the likes of Imran Loser, Chapdazzi and Quadro Bar. So, I mean, interesting to see how that one develops. So, interesting comment again from Ben, who says, I think Gino feels he has reset the squad and expects the young players to develop and give us a chance of having a few attempts at promotion with largely the personnel we already have on board. Now, I don't think that will happen without some serious backing in the transfer market. It's quite obvious that Tom Cleverley, for me, was a manager who you wanted to rebuild with and build something with. Gino is just going all out now. When I say all out, in his mind, he's going all out. Whether it's actually sort of demonstrated in his actions is another completely different thing. But we will see. Interested to see if Scott Duxbury says anything, because, I mean, after what happened last season, again, it's not a great look for how it's ended. After publicly speaking so openly about his support for Cleverley and the fact that it did last the full season, which some people didn't expect, but I think he thought he'd be here next season, or maybe he didn't. As Matt Evans says, Gino is not looking for a rebuild. He's clearly looking to plump. And I think that pretty much says, could there be a late return for Keenan Davis, lads? That is one just to keep an eye on that, lads.
Sorry, fair, you spoke Cipriano into existence, so it might happen.
You know what? We'll get on to Hector in just a second, but that one blew my mind to think that he's my age playing for Watford. I know that's mad because there's younger players, but weird. Valon Behrami, Sam, we're getting through some serious rumours today. There's so much to discuss. Another one from Andrew French. Valon Behrami set for Watford return to work with Gianluca Nani as an assistant to the club sporting director? Sam, talk to me.
Got no idea, again, to be honest with you. It just seems that I know potentially it's difficult at this level to go for those proven names in the backroom staff. And we have tried that previously with Ben Manga, which obviously lasted for however long, 6 months or so. So going for people in the football department who are potentially less experienced and don't have the experience of running clubs or helping to run clubs in England, it's another huge gamble. I wonder if a part of it as well, again, is to pull on the fans' heartstrings as well, again, just because he was relatively popular. I remember from the 2 or 3 seasons he was with us in the Premier League. A bit of a cult hero, I'd say he was at the time. But yeah, again, it's difficult. It's difficult for me to comment. I feel bad not giving too much insight on either Pezzolano or Behrami here, but it's difficult to, because like we said, we're going into next season with genuinely no idea if we could finish in the top 6 or if we'll be battling for bottom 3.
I think what's interesting, I spoke to a colleague of mine at work. He's actually my boss at work, who follows the Italian scene a lot, and he said Behrami would be doing a lot of media for DAZN, and actually he did his last game for Serie A game the other day, and he gave like a goodbye. He's on to a next chapter. They did like a sort of farewell for him because he'd been covering it for DAZN Italy, but he's never taken this role before, Charlie. Now, from what I understood at Brescia, he'd worked alongside the department or been involved. So he has an understanding of how it operates, and obviously being in football for as long as he has, he's 40 years old now. But would this be a good thing? Someone who does know Pozzo inside out, who knows Watford inside out. He was in one of the most, likeable Watford teams under Kike. Is there anything in that, do you think, or is it just we'll have to wait and see?
I'm just thinking, picture the scene, first day of pre-season, Boreham Wood, the sun's shining, Valon walks out onto the pitch in those trainers with white soles, black trainers, white soles, shades on. I think that would move me. So I think this one's a vibe. I'm on it. Like, the more I'm talking about next season, I'm on for the pure vibes.
Ian makes a great point. This stream will be shown at the end of the season. The predictions revisited when we get promoted. We will do predictions. We will do keep, sell, or loan, which is to come as well. I know that's always a really popular one. And thanks so much to everyone who's watching live at the moment. Probably not much to add on Behrami, but that one seems to be going through at some point. I'm going to bring it back round, lads, to another bit of admin, Watford housekeeping. I know I love that phrase. Jimmy Gilligan and Robbo leaving, Charlie. Now, this one was another one that got released. They both left their roles at Watford. Obviously, Jimmy Gilligan is was Watford's academy head of technical development. Was widely praised for his role with Richard Johnson in the academy, and really, bringing some fantastic talent through there. And there's some great players. And Eamon Nabizada was at it again, Sam, with an assist the other day, which is fantastic. And he's doing really, really well. And then obviously Robbo. But he's had his contract terminated. I believe that Gilligan's gone off to a role in Saudi Arabia. But Charlie, I'll throw it over to you on this. As someone who obviously keeps track of the academy really, really in depth as well. Were you surprised at this one? Probably less so Robbo, but more with Gilligan, right?
Yeah, less so with Robbo, but yeah, a bit worried about the Gilligan one. I don't know if the timing was kind of coincided with Clev's going. And it looks like he's got a new kind of role. And if it's out there in the Middle East, I'm sure he's getting well paid for it. But in the last 2-3 years, he's done such an incredible job alongside Jono to get the academy to where we are. We've already seen FA Youth Cup against Man City get into the semi-final. We were outstanding against probably one of the best academies in the country. The under-18s thriving. So I'm really hoping they can hire someone who can carry on that, or if Jono can bring someone underneath him, because if we can continue with our, look, everything that we spoke about early on about the short-termism and we have to get promoted, it's hard to see now. It's difficult to see now an academy player breaking through, whereas with Clevs you probably had more chance. We saw kind of Ramirez Espan play really well in spots, so. But even if we can just develop really good academies, do well in our youth competitions and kind of make a tiny profit, send them out on loan. But yeah, it'd be a shame to waste all that good work that those guys have done in the recent years, because we've gone from kind of having really average academy to one that's thriving again.
Anything to add, Sam, on this one? I mean, Robbo, I didn't come as a surprise, to be honest. I think as soon as he left Cleverley's technical team, I think the writing was on the wall that he probably wasn't going to be here beyond this season. As for Jimmy Gilligan, I echo Charlie's thoughts there, Sam, in terms of the impact he's had on the academy. Yeah, I mean, are you concerned at all? The fact that someone who's been so influential in getting some people like Messiah Edwards, Nabizada, the 18s team, really, bringing Andrews through, the fact that he's left, is that a concern for you?
Yeah, 100%. It's difficult to read into whether the timing of it was coincidental, whether it was linked to Tom Cleverley's exit. But I think without doubt, we're going to see less academy players coming through next season, just because we're not going to want to take that. I don't want to say that risk, but when you're going for promotion, or according to Pozzo, that's what we're trying to do. It is you're less likely to take those gambles. So yeah, it's disappointing. And yeah, with Robbo as well, it was a shame to see him go, because he's someone who genuinely cares about the football club. And also Damon Lathrope as well, who obviously did an excellent job at all levels across the academy, the women's team, obviously getting them promoted, and then the men's team as well. So wish those guys all the best. And of course, it's disappointing, but onwards we go.
Absolutely. We talked a couple of outgoings, incomings to come. One thing just to throw on your radar, I know obviously everyone who watches this, 99% of people are Watford fans and can have an impact on the club and the way it's run, and something we all really care about deeply. Watford have opened applications to join the new supporters boards. So if you just go on the website, if you want to have your voice heard, I mean, it's something that I think all of us lads will certainly take a look at. But yeah, just something to mention. I'm glad it's happening. But yeah, if you'd like to apply to become a member, I think you can just go on the website and put your name down, which I think would be, if you're as passionate about the club as we all are, I think it's definitely worth something to consider.
If you want more information on that, give a listen to From the Rookery End. Mike Parkin has done a really good informative pod that's give all the information. So yeah, it looks like a good start to something positive. So yeah, check that out.
Great stuff. And now we do a rapid fire. We've got 15 minutes left, 10 minutes left. Sam's basically said before, Andy said, well, look, I've got the darts at 9:30. Let's get off there by then. So we'll make sure we go through all the transfer rumours. And I'm going to throw the first one to you, Charlie, which was one that we've been waiting for a long time. Hector Cipriano is through the door. He has signed for Watford. The former Peterborough captain, 23 years old. He signed on a 5-year contract on a free transfer. I'm struggling to see any downside to this one, Charlie. And when I've heard sort of reports about him and read up about the impact he had at Peterborough, it looks like a smart bit of business for Watford.
Yeah, it looks like a really, really good signing. I was actually quite shocked that this one went through, because Clev's kind of mentioned in January that we've had a pre-agreement with a player who's going to come in the summer. And I thought if Clev's just spoke to him and then whatever happened, he might change his decision. But I think I know Sam's watched him in the what's it called, the Papa John's or something these days, that final. But
I think Johnson's Paint Trophy, whatever you want to call it.
I think the only thing I know about him, and I mean, like one thing that I think looks really, really good about him is his leadership skills, and especially at a young age. So that's exactly the type of player that we need in the team. So that's all I'll say on it. But yeah, I don't know if you boys want to touch a bit more about what type of player and is he going to start straight away?
Sam, Hector the Protector.
Yes, his nickname at Peterborough, it was, I believe. I think he comes straight into the team, doesn't he? A player of that age, that profile, I don't think he takes the step up or comes to Watford without a probable guarantee that he'll most probably be starting. He's someone who, according to Darren McAntony, the Peterborough owner, chairman, who is very, very open about Peterborough's dealings on his podcast. It's very, very interesting if you want an insight into football and how the football world works more generally. I think he's mentioned Watford's name in relation to Cipriano over the last 18 months or so. So one that we've been after for a while. Definitely good to get it over the line. And I'm really, really excited about this signing.
Agreed. I think in the 4-3-3, I see him as the 6 and then maybe you have Loser as an 8 if he stays. It really does depend if where Loser's going to play, or you play 2 and then 1 in front. That might be the way that Pezzolano looks at it. We have a more ball-playing midfielder, but I think from what I've read about Cipriano, he's a destroyer in there. He won't do anything too flashy, but he'll win the ball back. I think when you compare him to Tom Dele-Bashiru, his defensive stats were way higher than Dele-Bashiru, but in the same breath, Dele-Bashiru's passing stats were a lot stronger as well. So that's the sort of play you get in there if you compare it to someone. And Jack's just reminded me, Agent Jacob first scouted him in Sunday League. I cannot believe that it's the first time ever, lads. Have you lads ever had that? Someone you know has gone on, no, that's a stretch actually. I'm not claiming that, but someone you've met or someone you've played against or someone that's gone on to play professional.
Someone
club.
I can't remember who it was, but someone I know said they played against Harvey Elliott back in the day, a few years ago.
Your aunt's cat.
My claim to fame there. Whisper it quietly.
Charlie, locker.
Oh, trying to think who went to school with. I think Jamal Lowe went to our school. He's a couple of years below us. Yeah, I'm not too sure. Get in the comments. There's got to be some good claims to fame there.
Hector Cipriano, he's through. Freddie. I can't read that out. I think that will come across like I love myself, which I definitely don't. Like strong enough. Anyway, we move on. We've signed Hector Cipriano, 5-year contract, free transfer. A good one through the door, definitely. Another one that looks to be on its way is Nathan Baxter, Charlie, or Sam, who I haven't really seen a lot of Nathan, if I'm honest, but he's going to be joining on a free transfer, reportedly. The Bolton Wanderers keeper on a free, Sam.
Yeah, from what I've seen, splits opinion with the Bolton fans, to be honest. And yeah, I mean, it probably signals the end of Daniel Bachmann at Watford, doesn't it? That signing.
So where would we'll do the keep sell alone, Charlie, but when you look at the 3 keepers now, does that then go Selvik, Baxter, Roberts?
I think so. Roberts will probably go out on loan. I don't think his loan at Bristol Rovers was that good. As whenever a transfer comes and you know someone who supports that team, I know a Bolton fan, so I sent him a message. And again, look, the same thing happened with Abankwah, and it probably shows the people that I know or hang around with have really, really bad opinions. But he said he's generally the reason we didn't go up, mate, a liability. And he took a wee next to the dugouts at Reading and got fined. So that's my intel on Mr. Baxter. But look, welcome to Watford. He's obviously going to be number 2, and I think how good has Selvik been in the back half of the season? So the thought of going into a season with a good keeper feels a bit alien.
Yeah, I think this will. I'd imagine Bachmann will move on in the summer. I mean, he signed a 5-year contract 2 years ago. So what's that? He's got 3 years left. Quick maths, but he's 30. Bachmann, and I think he'll be wanting first team football. Also, Alfie Marriott will probably go number 3 if Roberts goes out on loan. So we'll see. So that's one just to keep an eye on. So that's 2, Cipriano and Baxter. Then there was a really, really encouraging report, Sam, that Abankwah and Wiley could be making a return. Now, while you talk about those 2, Sam, how big that would be for us, I'll just get Andrew's article on screen. But I think that would be 2 of the best bits of business we could do all summer, really, for me anyway.
100%, yeah. The rumours were with Wiley that he'd signed an 18-month deal in January, or there was a view that he'd do sort of his first 6 months at the back end of last season, even though he was injured for most of that, and then join again next season, which is huge because I just thought he looked so composed and grew game by game. He looked better and better. I remember after his first game, I was thinking, I'm not too sure, but 5 or 6 games later, he was brilliant, I thought. And Abankwah, I was pleasantly surprised by this one. I didn't think he'd be coming back. I think he said on international duty with Ireland that his plan was to stay in Serie A. I might be misquoting that, but really, really welcome return if he is. I think he started really, really well the first half of his loan. Second half of his loan was a little bit more shaky. I'd say probably his red card against Oxford and onwards, he wasn't as good as he was in that first half, but we've seen enough there to suggest that he's a really, really good player. and not only someone who'd come in and start, but also someone that we could potentially sell on in the future.
I actually think a Banquo, I'm so high on him that I actually think if he signed, he would be the player with like the highest ceiling that we have. Maybe Quadro Bar, but with his injuries. But I just think the attributes that a Banquo's got for the modern game, his athleticism, his ball carrying, I think he could go. I think he could be outstanding. So again, if we could start the season with Selvik, Abanqua, Pollock, Ben, that's pretty strong. Wiley on the left, yeah, positive.
Jack says neither of them were included in the retain list, which was encouraging. I also think we didn't even mention it, lads, how good a signing Selvik's been. And that means we go into the season exactly knowing who our number one is. And I remember when he signed, people were like, was it on loan? Is it permanent? But he signs a 3-year deal with Watford in January. So that's looking like a good bit of business. But I do agree with you, Charlie. I think when I look at the potential of the players that we've got, is Vata and Abanqua for me, who are the two that could go on and play at a really high level because they've got all the attributes. It's just developing it, I guess. And Vata will probably get a lot more game time this season as well, hopefully anyway. Ben says, think we can raise reasonable funds, Sam, by selling Backman, Porter and Rajovic. Also freed up a decent amount of wages with the Ogbonna release, room to manoeuvre. And that kind of leads on nicely to the retain list because we had Bio, who's returned to Udinese, Ogbonna, who's left, and Yasser Larouci, who's returned to his loan. So it was a good day for Sam when that news came out. But with that comment from Ben, do you see that there's room to manoeuvre in terms of the market?
I'm going to miss Yasser Larouci. I'm going to miss stood next to Charlie, questioning every decision that he makes on the pitch of Vicarage Road.
You're just going to be doing it for another player, mate. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, got to find someone else now to have the agenda against. Definitely there'll be room to manoeuvre and definitely funds will be raised. I think from that, and even though they want to keep your Chat for Tatse's losers bar, you'd imagine that one of them will probably go, most likely Chat for Tatse, and another one as well, sort of an indirect transfer rumour here, with João Pedro having a bust up with Fabian Hertzler, and I think it was Van Heck as well at Brighton. It looks like he'll be moving on in the summer. You'd imagine that would be for what, 60, 70 million he'd be leaving Brighton for, and Watford will get a nice, is it 10%? I'm not exactly sure, but getting 5 or 6 million in from a João Pedro sale will also help the books nicely.
Very good point. Very good. I don't know does anybody actually know our sell-on clause there?
Lads, don't worry about that. Now we sold Udinese, we've got £150 million war chest.
This is the thing. They're going like, oh, we've got all this money, but then I think Andrew will calm us down by saying not all of it will go back into the squad. So yeah, Ogbonna, that one hasn't worked out. Bio, over 100 games for Watford's, which is incredible. And Larouci, who's returned from his loan. On that note about players leaving, there was a rumour that came out today, Charlie, about Tom Dele-Bashiru to Ipswich for £8 million. Now, for me, I read it and I was like, that just seems too Football Manager. But if we're getting offered £8 million, it has to be done, doesn't it?
Yeah, but it's not happening. I swear the same publication posted a story like similar time last year about Ipswich being interested in Kayembe. Does it say that Watford want 8 million for Tom Dele? I don't know how reliable that source is, to be honest. But now that Cipriano's in, he might be a player who could move on. Again, it all depends about Imran Louza, because I think that's where all the offers are going to be coming in. So it's going to see how ambitious is Gino going to be, and maybe if Louza's age, that might kind of be a bit more of a benefit that clubs won't push the envelope for him and pay top dollar. So we'll see. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I know we're going to be doing our keep, sell or loan video very soon, but Tom Dele could be one who makes a move.
But I know, as Charlie said, Sam, that the Football League world don't have a great track record with Watford, but my word, if £8 million comes in, it's no brainer, no?
Yeah, no, I really, really like Tom Dele. But like Charlie just said, I think if the right fee comes in this summer, I think he is someone that we could see moving on.
On that, just to add to what Andrew French said, I know he's been getting a lot of mentions today. Shout out to Andrew. because he won't be doing this next season, which is a great shame, as I said at the top of the show. But he did say that striker is a priority and a left back is close. Now, lads, predictions for the left back. Any names you want to fly out there? Because I saw Ashley Young being rumoured. I'm going to go with Jordan Zamora. I think Lou Orns has hit the nail on the head there. I think that one makes a lot of sense. The other one that people have said, Sam, is it Kenneth Powell?
Kenneth Powell, yeah. But I think someone, Andrew, yeah. We were linked with him. We were linked with him the last couple of summers. I can't lie, with the Udinese move going through, I did think it wouldn't surprise me if we saw one of Adam Messina or Hassan Kamara come back. I could just see it. I have always thought Adam Messina is very much that sort of player who'd come back to Watford. So, interesting.
Do you know who I think just a random shout, like if we're getting Wiley in, who I think we all agree would be the first choice, maybe we'd be looking more for a more experienced player. Might go back in for someone like Charlie Taylor. I know we were in for him in January.
Good shout.
Matt Target.
Yeah, these are all good names. Actually, on the striker position being a priority, they did mention about how, Andrew mentioned how Watford are looking, are not against taking a younger player from a Premier League team on loan for a striker. So just one to look out for. Melanie's asked us, do you read your comments? Melanie, we always read your comments. Let's have a little look before we wrap up. Even Cedric is one that's been rumoured. Someone who worked with Pezzolano at Real Valladolid. I think he brought him to the club, and then he's gone on loan to Barcelona B this season. So Pezzolano has a close relationship with him. That's just one to look out for in the striker position. But we have been going...
Sorry, Jacob. I looked at him quickly before we came on, and he's an absolute unit. He's like an absolute powerhouse, like really good kind of out of possession, closing people down. He's very rough and raw, but electric pace. He reminded me of like Mateta with pace, like big, strong. Like you don't know if he'd translate to Championship football, and I wouldn't say it's the banker, or I wouldn't say he would solve our striking problems, but he could be fun.
Wow, Mark saying apparently Cedric is a done deal.
There
we land from Mark. Ben said Mateo Joseph from Leeds was linked on loan. I'd take him all day. Luke says I'd give João Ferreira a chance at right back. Ben says he thinks it'll be Kenneth Powell on a free transfer. Jack says I would take 8 million for Tom Dele-Bashiru, especially with his injury record. Reportedly, it's a 10% profit on João Pedro, and as Odgster says, if Pedro is sold for 60, we'll get 4.5. Sam, so I think that'll be good.
Every little helps, you know. I think we're going to need money wherever we can get it, on top of the Udinese sale.
To wrap up, lads, we've had a few great shouts for players that people have played against. Alex says I marked Luke 09 when he played for Wilstone under 18s. Lovely shout that. Josh said he went to school with Will Lancashire. I've played against Hector Cipriano. Sam knows someone who's had a kicker out of Harvey Elliott, and Charlie knows Jamal Lowe. So if anyone can beat that in the comments, then fair play, lads. Anything else? I'm sorry I had to rush a little bit towards the end, but it's 9:30. Sam's got the darts ready. He's got it ready to go. He's got it on Sky Plus. Charlie, anything you wanted to add before we wrap up?
When are we doing keep, loan or sell?
When do the people want it? It's always the question, isn't it? I mean, we'll do it whenever. Obviously not now, but most days. I mean,
should we say coming soon?
Just coming soon Sunday night. Do you fancy a Sunday night? Maybe just get back in the swing of it.
Yeah.
Consistency is key. It's our own pre-season this.
It's our own pre-season. Just the last few things. Huge shout out to Hertfordshire Mind for all their work with us last season. Our £1 for every goal Watford scored. That is obviously finished. The final payment for the last month was £6. So if you'd like to do that and just chip in to the total, which is over £1,000, be amazing. Keep Sell Alone Sunday evening, and hopefully we will see you then. Take care of yourself, guys. Thank you so much for joining us on this Thursday evening, and we'll be back for more 25, 26 Watford content very, very soon. Take care and up the audits. You want?